Good evening. Welcome to the 19th Time of the Writer. Today is the third day. We've been having a really awesome week. Sizoba ne book launch, Chasing the Tail of My Father's Cattle. Ka Mam Sindiwe Makona, Pam Dlungwana uzobe a facilitator. Ndela Siba, welcome to the stage, please.
Hi, ngiuPam Dlungwana. Ngijabule kakhulu namhlanje ukuthi ngihlale la noMam Sindiwe Makona, i-living legend. Engahambi yodwa namhlanje ihamba noBaba uWally Serote. Kodwa lana ke sihleli sobabili ngithi sawubona masibonge kakhulu ukuthi usifikele lana awuhambi wedwa uhamba nebhuku.
And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Really, really great to be in the midst of such an illustrious crowd.
Lana bengathanda ukuthi ngiqale mhlambe ngithi hawo Mam Sindiwe wabhala incwadi ezinjeyana kodwa lokho sekungamane kudle sonke isikhathi esinaso la. So ngizomane ngiqale lana la. Last year in December, was it December or November? It was November. Yeah, in November I had the good fortune to be with a group of women, amongst which was Umam Sindiwe Makona as our keynote speaker. And she took the opportunity to launch this absolutely fabulous book. And one of the first things she bragged about was how quickly she'd written this book. Can you tell people how long it took you to write this book? How long was it?
Well, it's a surprise to me, so it may not be to to other people, but I have written several books, but this is the first time in my writing life I wrote a book in 3-4 months. I've never done it before. I'm not sure I can do it again.
But what I want to know, and because it's one of the first things I told Nakani found me reading this book, and I'm like, you just have to ask her once. It's like a couple of 40 plus days that she's written this book. What was the impulse behind Chasing the Tails of My Father's Cattle?
I think part of the reason the book kind of flew out of me is because it came as a result of years of observation and anger and just incredible disbelief at how a woman, an African woman, could be so dispossessed, perhaps robbed, deserved by institutions that are supposed to support her. The family, religion, the law, and tradition.
Now, in this book, I'm sure, just to get you straight here, you are speaking about Shumigazi.
We are speaking about Shumigazi.
Okay, maybe I'd like to the first point I'd like to bring there then is here.
While she is sifting through that, go ahead. The other surprise about the book, as I said, I have written several. Every critic and friend who has read the book says, it's the best book you have ever written. This one, in 3 months, as I say, it scares me so much, I don't think I'm going to try and write another book in 3 months.
Okay, thank you for that.
But people do say.
They do a lot. So, okay, I just said the character's name was Shumigazi. I'm picking here from your earlier statement, or your first real statement, when you said you're focusing on all the kinds of trials a black woman has to survive. And I come here to Shumigazi, her name. When their turn came, what do you give this child? The white father asked. Nogufa, replied godmother Mama Duna. The white father looked up. Although he still smiled, a small frown marked his brow. He had been in the area for 10 years and had learned the language of the natives. In these parts of the country, these people spoke isiXhosa. Nogufa, Kufa, ukufa. Surely that was dying. What did death have to do with? Out loud he asked, what does that mean? Embarrassed silence told the priest all he needed to know. I do not accept that name. I will not baptize this child, any child, by that name. There was a flurry, an awkward shifting of the eyes from one to the other as the godparents hastily conferred. Maduna had told her husband just days earlier about the conversation her group had with Jojo when they'd visited his home. So it was that the church warden stepped forward. Father, he whispered reverently, her father has another name for her. And what is that name? The priest asked. Shumikazi. So I think in just reading this part, like, this is how this young woman's life starts. She's been given a name, and we take our names very seriously. I mean, through the course of this particular festival, I was reprimanded twice by Zugiso Wana for misspelling Miss Chikumadzi's name, putting the U where I wanted, and of course by Eusebius for giving him a Z instead of an S. Names are really important things to us. Why did you start here? Why did you give her these two names, and what's the importance of both names?
Shumikazi is born by a dying mother, and she is the 10th child of this couple. As the mother dies giving birth, she says to the husband, she had said before the birth, we will name this one Shumi if he's male, Shumikazi if meaning the 10th. She is the 10th but the only surviving child. And so the father likes this name because his dead wife gave the name. But the mother of the dead woman says, this child came through death, so I name her Nokufa. You know, she who comes through death. So there is that tension between the father and the grandmother. The father isn't there at christening. So the old woman's name is the one that is given to the white father. That's the religious father, the Anglican or Catholic priest. And so that's the name he's given, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't accept it. And then the other name is taken. And so she's christened or baptized in the dead mother's name, Shumikazi.
You know, I think I brought that up because for me it was the first stripping away at the self. We are given names, and they have certain meanings, they have certain roots, and they resonate within like our immediate community, meaning our family and our whatever beliefs we have. And once we launch ourselves out there, they're these guardians, and I say these guardians, maybe I'm referring more to the theme of the festival, decolonizing the book and decolonizing all that needs decolonizing at this time. You used a lot of I think in reading the book, I kept on thinking of Ingombuye Minyanya, my first real interaction with Xhosa culture or traditions, as it were. It was the first time I came across Umajola, and I see Umajola makes an appearance here. And I find it funny that you make no such mention in the importance of naming this child this, but we'll move on. I'll keep to language, and I'll ask, I'm always fascinated in your writings about your, how you manage to impregnate English with isiXhosa. When I read you, I kind of feel the rhythm of, somehow I'm reading you in English, but I hear you actually narrate the story in isiXhosa. How and why? Okay, is that an intention? Is it my imagination? How does that happen?
I don't think it's your imagination, because you're not the only person who has said that. And I don't think that should be very surprising. I write in English, I write in isiXhosa, but I do not ever kid myself I'm a native English speaker. I am not. I'm a native Xhosa speaker who also happens to have done decades of studying of the English language. And so I am comfortable. I'm not an expert, but comfortable in the use of English. And I do use it. But I'm sure in my use of that language, which is my second language, it must be infused with my native language. You know, some of the thoughts come in English, some of the thoughts come in isiXhosa, and there are things I want to say where the English language doesn't quite make it. And so I transport the Xhosa idiom into the English language, and it serves me. And so I use it. I think I have a right. I have all this wealth in me, why not inflict it on the public?
Lovely, lovely. Still sticking to language, I mean, a few years ago I thought, I came across Beauty's Gift, and it was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then through Neo Muyanga and Mam Tembi, I came across Mother to Mother. And somehow that pushed me to look further and find out more. And I was quite surprised by the many genres in which you write. Because I mean, people, I think we come across books like these in bookstores and we think that's the length and breadth of your expression, but I understand you translate,
Because I am not an expert on anything, I write everything. You see, if the story comes to me in the form of a short story, then it will be a short story. If it comes in the form of a poem, then it is a poem. If it comes in the form of a play, then it gets to be a play. And sometimes I take a poem and make it into, that kind of thing. I write in Somi, folk tales. I have folk tales I know from when I was a child, and I listen to them and they've been repeated. But I have new folk tales about today's issues. I have a folk tale called Umfo wasemzini nempempe yakhe, The Stranger and His Flute. That's from Robert Browning's The Pied Piper of Hamelin. I play with things. I love words. I love language. Yeah.
And in keeping at language, again, I'm going to ponder this until I get this out of you. Pardon. First, there's a book, I think it's Triple D, Dinosaurs, Diamonds, and Democracy.
Translation. I've just finished translating Francis Wilson's history book of South Africa. The title is Dinosaurs, Diamonds, and Democracy, from English to isiXhosa. And I found such a wealth of information. It's a tiny, tiny book. I think about 110, 120 pages, and very smaller than this in size. And the things I found there that I just feel that, well, I'm not here publicizing Francis Wilson. He definitely doesn't need me as a publicist. But I found so many things that should help us as a nation to knit into a nation. When I found, for instance, he quotes an American scientist, I can't remember what kind of, those people who go around digging at old things that are buried underneath, what are they called?
Archaeologists.
Archaeologists. And this one talks about the fact that the people in the Western Cape who were classified as coloreds, remember that? It made me so envious. I wanted to be colored. Because this lady, this scientist says that in the entire world, this population group exhibits the most diverse DNA. Me, darling, I feel like saying I wish I were colored, because you know what? If you ask me now, I would say, look at me, and look at me. Me, I am mother of you all. Greek, you are here. You Indian, you are here. You Palestinian, you are here. Whoever is in the world is in the Western Cape, in the population group we call colored. Isn't that a fantastic piece of history? I think colored people should be proud of their, heritage. They contain the world in the Western Cape.
Yeah, we might. Okay, maybe we should start veering back to this particular tome. Very excited about Buy It. A few years ago, I had a conversation with a friend who's working on her book in the States, and she is particularly concerned with this very popular portrait of black men. These men in wife beaters, these men who are known as the first suspect. Oh, Jesus, this is not happening.
Okay, are you back?
The first suspect for every crime. And here in this portrait of Jojo, you've painted a completely contrary character to that. And he's not a man who's appeared in your writing before. Can you tell me why Jojo and why now, and who is Jojo?
Jojo is Shumigazi's father. He is the widower, right? Who has to raise this child. And in my making him, in my build-up of this character, I expressly set out, perhaps as a fond wish, a fervent wish, that this might come into being. Black fatherhood as it ought to be. I've written a lot of poetry, a lot in short stories, where I am not bashing black men, but I am saying, guys, enough is enough already. We need strong black fathers of families, husbands of wives, because as Betty, was it Betty or Betsy? Betty Fairfoot said, a long time ago, before all of you were born, as alles reg is met de gesin, sal alles reg wees met die nasie. And no truer words were ever spoken. If all is well with the family, all will be well with the nation. Without families, strong families, no nation. Malupaka, and in fact, it wasn't Malupaka Nyiswe, guys. No one is going to raise it for you. Malupaka Mupondolwayo. Active voice, not as the other one, Malupaka Nyiswe. Luzapaka Nyiswangban. Luzapaka Nyiswangban. Who's going to let it be raised? It was, anyway. Malupaka me upondo loyo I Africa. That pondo isn't going to be raised with our families in tatters as they are now. As an act, a political act, if you wish. I don't want to go into the moral of it, the morality of it. Really, we need to start taking care of our business. And our business is making sure that our families become families and are strong families. That's how a nation is built. The family is the brick that builds the nation. Really and truly. And so I build Jojo as a man who does what ought to be done by every grown man. Be responsible, be respectful, and take care of your business.
Okay, now we've got quite a number of young aspirant writers in the room. We've had interactions with them in the library earlier on today. And at the library, Tutuzile Mabaso said something absolutely sparkling when asked her. Well, she wasn't particularly, she was introducing herself. She was talking around gatekeepers, and she said she's never really understood there was any other such in her life.
There was any other?
Any such, as in anything to prevent her from doing that which she wanted. And I kind of feel at some point she'd alluded to why it was that you write. So maybe you could share why it is or how it is that you started writing, if you share the same sentiment with Utut.
Well, a long time ago when we thought we were politically aware, there was this cry, why do white people write about us? Why do white people? Eventually dawned on yours truly. Anybody writing about anybody is that anybody's choice, but it doesn't stop you from writing about you. Really, you can spend the rest of your life bemoaning the fact that why are other people? Nothing stops you from doing what you ought to do. That's your responsibility, not stopping other people from doing what they feel they ought to do. You have a responsibility to discharge your responsibility. My responsibility as somebody who can string along 2 or 3 sentences, I am not, writing to oust anybody else. But I began to feel that those of us who somehow managed to stay long enough in school that we can, as I say, do what we are doing, we need to leave footprints. To say to the people who will live long after we are dead, this is how it was to be me at this time in the history of this country. It came to me late in life. I was almost 30 already, before I realized that I had given white South Africans much more credit than they deserved. I had always known they were white, they were rich, they were happy. Don't ask. Don't ask what other things. I mean, how can you sum up a whole people's like that? But this was one of the things about being South African. We missed each other completely. We believed in a group identity that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. No peoples are homogeneous. Having known white South Africans to be white and rich and happy, they didn't die, of course. They were never unhappy. They were no... Never thought of that one, did I? I then had the, my life changed in such a way that I had a foot into white life. First as a domestic worker, later on teaching Xhosa at Herschel Girls High. I am no apologist for anybody, including myself. But I began to see, to understand that, you know what? White people, rich, white, and everything else, clever as we thought they were, they had no idea what my life was. It was a staggering, simple things. It is up to you to interpret and to write about, to record what you know, your experience as you know it. It may not be true to somebody else, but it is your truth, and that's important. Your truth is important, and only you can validate that truth. It seemed to me that it would be a shame that history books that were written by white people during my time as a student would always only and ever after be from that side of the country. We need to leave footprints, as I say, that show what else was happening and how it was to be we. I know it's wrong grammatically, but to be we.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. We have to wrap up our session. I'm wondering if you have any last parting words? Or...
I don't have a parting word, but I do want to say the way I see the responsibility of perhaps a writer is to do the best you know how, to be true to yourself, to write about what moves you, what touches you, what compels you. Nobody forces me to write about anything. I write about what matters to me. That's all I can do. It may not be important to someone else, but it is important enough to me, because either it makes me very angry or very sad, but it touches me somehow to such an extent that I have to respond. And the way I respond, I can't sing. There are always exceptions, hey? All Africans sing, not this one. So the only way I can respond is through words. That's the only thing I know how to do. And that's what I do. It may not please everybody, but that is mine, and I own it. And I apologize to anybody else. It doesn't. That's why there are many writers. Read the writers that please you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.